Hello there, and welcome to my series on painting with acrylics for absolute beginners. If you are an absolute beginner but interested in learning how to paint with acrylic paints, which are probably the most recent paints to be introduced in the world market, acrylics are available in tube form, just like you have those watercolor tubes in your school curriculum. They are available in tube form and also in some bottles and larger cans where you want to work on a very large scale. But for you as a beginner, tubes are more than sufficient. They are water soluble. They can be dissolved in water, and once soluble in water and allowed to be applied on a surface, they dry to permanency. And nothing in probably no solvent in this world can loosen those acrylic paints once again, and therefore, unlike watercolors, they are not retrievable. Thirdly, they are fabric paints. So that means once they stick to your clothes, you can do nothing about it if they dry on your clothes. So whenever you sit to paint with acrylics, try and see that you use old clothes or at least an apron, so that if color sticks to your clothes, they may be even written off. Next, acrylic can be used on any surface like paper, hardboard, cardboard, mountboard, wood, plywood, even rough walls, virtually any surface, except I would not advise them to be used on extremely polished surfaces like glazed tiles, glass, mirrors, because from these surfaces they finally would flake off. So avoid very smooth surfaces for the use of acrylics. But generally for our purpose, I think paper, or not very thin paper, very thick paper, or a board like this, a cardboard, or maybe a mount board is sufficient for our use. There is no need to use a palette, because use of a palette is a waste of money, because once acrylics are squeezed onto that palette, acrylics will dry to permanency and the palette will be rendered useless for the next lesson. So the best way is to make use of some old cardboards or maybe a glass sheet, or a simple kitchen steel plate would suffice for squeezing out your acrylic paints. Now, when you squeeze out, please squeeze out a lot of quantity of acrylics. Even if you want to do some small work, it should be more than required, because otherwise you will always be troubled about going back to the tube, squeezing out, loosening the paint, again finishing it off and again going back to the paint. So the best way is to squeeze out more than required quantity of paint, so that it lasts more than the lesson that you would like to do. Then you keep your brushes always head down in water. The brushes, once they take up some acrylic and they are placed outside and they are allowed to dry accidentally, then it will become rock hard and the brush becomes useless. So please keep in mind that you must always, throughout your work, keep the brushes head down in water after use. And once the work is over, rinse them thoroughly in water. Maybe use some soap water and wash them clean, shape them up and place them for drying. Acrylics are by and large non-toxic, and so they will not do any harm to your skin. However, once they dry on the skin, they become very, very tough, and therefore, without wasting water, under a little source of water, tap water, you can just press your fingers against one another and try and remove the acrylic that has dried. That is the way you can save water as well as relieve yourself from the acrylic paints which may stick to your skin. So these are a few points which I have emphasized upon, and I think if you can remember these points, you are well prepared to strike out to paint with acrylics. Come, paint with me. Our first lesson will be how to paint leafless trees. Thank you very much.